All right,
Thank you.
Maddie.
What you want? I went first last week,
All right,
Frankie.
you're gonna go. All right, all right.
You go.
Now,
You're up first this
all
week.
right, good deal, good deal.
All right.
Okay, so
Sell me, brother.
first what I'm gonna throw you is gonna need a doji, but it is Berkshire, Burke
Oh my
B.
God, I should have went first.
That who you were?
Oh,
That who you were
I
gonna?
kn yes, it was my first pick, and I literally, when you said gonna need a doji, I literally about cut you off and be like, wait a second,
I'll
mine
go
needs
first.
a doji as well, because I am gonna bring Burke B that needs a doji on 290. I love it, Frankie, but talk to me about what you
Yeah, I
like
mean,
about it.
so we tried to break out on earnings in November, right? So I mean, this is about as clean of a long-term consolidation pattern as you're going to get. We tried to break out on earnings, wasn't able to hold. That's that big, wick day that you see back in November. But, now we've broken out. We were running hot and heavy into that breakout. It stopped me from wanting to trade the breakout, but it clearly didn't stop everybody as we easily pushed through that resistance level, firing up into the 300. Of course, quite a bit of selling here today. Good old Cody special snapback going on here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Need
It definitely, this is one of those Cody special snapbacks, no
This
doubt.
is absolutely, we need to see some sort of simmering down, right? Because right now the intraday bears are in firm control, but the price is right. Now, testing that old breakout channel makes sense. If, to me at least, it makes sense that, if you had bought in, whenever, maybe you hit a stop loss or took some profits going into the weekend. So if we see that inside candle, that hammer, that doji, just a little green bar on Monday, that would be the confirmation for me at least, followed by some upward movement. We'll be pretty fast. We definitely need one more candle at a minimum, but nothing. I mean, this is not anything too crazy, right? Missed the break, getting that second opportunity if I want it.
I love that analysis, Frankie. I do think this was overextended coming into the breakout. I said yet a couple of days ago, I believe I said that this market literally is the Kathy Wood versus Warren Buffett type market.
Yeah.
Like you have teams, you have supporters of teams, and you have price action responding. It's an amazing battle, and Warren Buffett and the value components, the ones that are tied to a lot of companies that Buffett likes companies that make money. He likes companies that pay him a dividend, right? So Buffett's winning over the short term. Can it continue? Obviously, an open question. But Burke was going to be my first pick. It was your first pick. I love the analysis coming into the breakout. Longer term channel here, very consistent channel against 290 by 272. It breaks out of that with some momentum, with
Yeah.
absolute momentum. But it wasn't just that, Frankie. When you've had a lot of volume concerns in the marketplace as tied to a lot of what's happening in the growth. In fact, you've seen increasing volume on those sell-offs, which is never a good sign. Well, what do we see on the opposite side? We see volume as the build is happening here, Frankie. You see volume build as
Yep.
well. Participation is increasing in that breakout. That gives that breakout a little bit additional confirmation, a little bit more confidence in the breakout. But the problem, you're a little bit overextended in this breakout, and we're dealing with a marketplace that has so much news to it. You're just not gonna be able to see everything. Well, for a lot of people that missed out on that, which is most people, I would say,
Yeah.
well, we missed out on it. Well, let's look at that breakout now. Hit into that resistance level at 300. I'm willing to bet, Frankie, you would have been targeting 300 here.
Would have been the first target.
Would have been a
Yeah.
T1 target.
Hmm.
Seeing a snapback come down. And again, I think it's important. It needs a doji. You need to see that slowing momentum. You need to let it work its technical analysis out. But it's one of those stocks that I feel has to be on the radar right now. Get a
Absolutely.
doji, get that confirmation. I like it as well. So Burke, yeah, you don't have to sell me on Burke. Burke was I knew it.
Yeah,
I
Burke
knew
was.
it the moment you said needs a doji because I've scanned almost all of the markets so far today, and there's a few stocks that need a doji and a
Sure, there's a couple.
retracement,
Yeah, there's a
right?
couple.
So it's like it's either Burke or this one other stock, and I'm like, oh no, he took my Burke pick, but
Well,
I
all right.
like it,
Yeah.
Frankie. So I'm gonna have to shift a little bit.
All right. What you got
All
for me?
right, all right, all right. You went value. We both like it. We both like it. I'm gonna bring Tech.
Ooh, I like it.
Tech. NEWR. Now,
All right.
what I like about this is more position.
Sure.
Okay, this is more position. What I like about it is positive earnings reaction, coming down, deep retracement, but not deep against the upward movements in price. The upward moves in price went from 70 to 130. The retracement went down to 100. That's what we call it, Frankie. I'm just going to draw it. I wish Coach Tim was here. I really do, but I'm just going to draw it. For those that can't do the math, it's a 50% retracement on the weekly chart. That's a buyer's zone. You also have the 9 EMA right there acting, and you also have that very significant whole number right there at 100. Now, Frankie, the daily chart, obviously very choppy. We haven't seen any type of follow through on any price action. Just fade, consolidate, fade, consolidate, fade, consolidate. That's what we've been seeing. We need to see a break. We need to see a confirmation break. Now, where is that confirmation break? You got a couple points here. One right there at about 103.5. But again, just in this world, I think you need something a little bit better than that. And I think you got to reclaim this pivot here at 107. You're reclaiming that 20-day moving average as well. You see that consistency of the build start to occur. So I like this on the weekly chart, position style analysis, not reclaiming its high from this week, but really confirming above last week's high, seeing that upward movement in price against that. You're looking at an entry above 107, stop underneath 100, and you're targeting 130. It's aggressive, but you're a conservative entry.
You got it. And what I like about it is no matter how you're entering, you're probably gonna have pretty good risk to reward ratio on it.
You are.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Could I potentially get you interested in a little scaling in technique? Whereas we took, because the first signal, I think you're right. The first under quote unquote normal market conditions, I think we both might say we need to take out this weekly high and we're ready to go.
100%.
Right. It's just, but you got to factor in the current market conditions that you're in. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
If this was not a choppy, volatile market, I'd say 105, let's go.
Let's roll. So with that said, could there be any interest in initiating some sort of a scaling strategy where maybe we move in at a quarter position on the 105 and just add the rest of the position?
Now you're talking. Back above? Now you're getting me. I like that. So you look at this from a weekly high perspective, right? You see that weekly high right there north of 104. You got the wick on, last Friday right there about 105. So whether it's 104, 105, either one I'm fine with, but you look at that aggressive trigger on the weekly above the weekly high, and the weekly high is, let's get an actual number. Yeah, 103.95. So you get it above 104, you scale into the position, and then as it builds above 107, you start adding a little bit up on that. You add a little bit more as it builds against 110.
I like that philosophy on these deeper pullbacks because it gives you some flexibility too. If we get kind of stuck in here, maybe we get above 104, but that last week's resistance ended up causing trouble
quarter
for 2
position.
Weeks. Just a quarter,
okay.
Just a quarter. I usually scaling is usually a quarter or a third for me. So
third. I like a third.
So,
third.
Yeah, I mean it's close, right? In its preference, it could be 72%, right, for somebody else. So,
well, like in a standard Fibonacci type retracement, Frankie, one thing I do like, if I can just do a little tiny quick whiteboarding thing here. So when you look at a standard retracement, right? And let me get the Epic pen, because maybe only I like the Epic pen, but I love the Epic pen. And so when you're looking at a little bit of a deeper retracement, and what Frank is kind of talking about in his scaling in approach is, let's say you have that upward movement in price, right? And it starts coming down, and it comes down, and it comes down, and it comes down. Well, what I'd like to do here, Frankie, is basically as you look at your support levels, As it starts building, it reclaims 50, you add some. As it builds, it reclaims 38, you add some, and then you're basically full position once the momentum starts kicking. That's pretty much what you're saying here.
Right.
As the momentum builds above this level, you add a little bit. As it builds above that level, you add a little bit more. And as it builds above that level, that's where you're full position as you're working your way back into that ultimate target of 130.
Exactly. And hopefully what happens is your initial 25, 33% of your scale in has just a tremendously huge day and you never get to add the rest because it runs all the way to resistance. And that's the complaint that you have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully that's our problem. But I do
I
like it.
like it. I like it. Go
I
ahead.
like
You're
it.
next, Frankie.
All right. Next up on the block, I want to revisit somebody from last week, our old friends
Okay.
HMHC. These guys never, at least in my opinion, triggered this week, but they did hold support, which is very, very important. So
15
these,
held.
these were kind of the weekly retracement. They were my favorite setup for the bulls coming into the week. Needed
Mm-hmm.
them to take out last week's candle to get in. Well, as long as the support level holds, and we've done that admirably,
You're slowing down. The
I'm going to say the
retracement's
same
slowing
thing.
down.
Exactly. We worked right into that declining trend line, and it smacked us, right? But we held support. I'm going to say the same thing this week, and it's even better because I need to take out this week's high to get into the trade. My stop loss still needs to be below that support level. That is unchanged. So my risk immediately becomes lower, right? Which is a great thing. And my reward stays the same, right? I mean, I'm still looking at that $18 range for a swing trade, as a targeting zone and position. I think there's, several dollars,
Mm-hmm.
a couple dollars beyond that. So assuming that we hold the support, very similar analysis to what I brought up last week. We need to hold the support. If that support fails, then this pattern is gone and we can still, monitor them, but it's a new something, right? But
Yeah.
assuming we hold that support level, we take out this weekly high. In that scenario, we're also taking out the trend line. We're also probably realistically reclaiming the 20 SMA. We're going to have about a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio just to that recent high up in 18. And that's assuming you're going with the base, which is what I would be doing most likely.
Mm-hmm.
But there could be other stop options. It's not always my way or the highway. It's just my way or the highway for me, right? So,
Well, it was a pick last week. It was a legitimate pick last week. The question is, did anything this week change that analysis? And in my opinion, it didn't change the analysis, it actually improved the analysis, in my opinion. And it improved because support held, but the volatility slowed down a little bit. It gave you a better trigger because of it, and your stop loss is the same. And so it was a yes for me last week. It's still a yes. You don't get a pick when a stock confirms.
nope.
That's not your job. Your job is to look at support, look at resistance, and be prepared to take action when it does. You're prepared. The analysis is even better this week than it was last week. It's a yes for me. I'm going to go with a little bit, and I talked a little bit about these stocks, Frankie, when I was talking about basic materials. But some of the stocks outside of your actual, gold mining companies like Barrick Gold,
Right. Yeah.
Gold Core, those
The big,
traditional mining
the big name.
components, the gold names, right? I kind of like companies like Rio coming off this 60 handle on the weekly chart. You see a lot of support over here, a lot of support right there around that 60 mark. And then when you look at this on a daily chart, Frankie, you see that 60 really come in. Now it's choppy, it's an ADR, and it tracks, operations from around the world. But when you're looking at this, you got to like it at 60. But again, we've said this all day long, all week long. We said it last week. It's one thing for support to hold. You got to see resistance broke. Well, that's what occurred this week. You broke out of resistance. You reclaimed all your moving averages. You confirmed above 65. Now you're testing that 65 level a little bit. I'd like this above the resistance, but if it isn't Rio, once again, I come back to VALE, and I can't really pick which one I like the most. I'm
Right.
still in that process, Frankie. You help me. Which one do you like the most out of Rio versus VALE?
Yeah, because that's exactly what I was thinking as you were talking about uh, Rio. I was like, the only issue I have with Rio is I think I prefer Vale.
Yeah,
I prefer it for a couple of reasons. One, just a little less gappy,
it is.
just is right. It just is. And while that's not, a huge deal, it's a tiebreaker, at least in my personal estimation. What I like about Vale, and again, you're really splitting hairs here, and so I wouldn't argue too much either way. But I really like the fact that we've got a very clear path up into that 15. That will be that old pivot. That's also about
Yeah.
where that 20 weekly is going to be. If we can get through that, we've kind of got that easy stair step to 16, right? So 15 is a legitimate battle, in my opinion. If we can win that, 16 doesn't seem like it's that hard to me, at least. And then there's just, I just kind of could see the stair stepping a little easier, I guess,
Hmm.
for right or wrong on a Vale versus a Rio. You're going to be in a very similar spot. I think you're going to be a little happier with the risk to reward. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm a little happier with the risk to reward on Vale. I think you can get a little bit
Well,
better
I
risk to
think you're
reward.
working 15 by 16 on Bell,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
T1 15, T2 16, T1 on Rio would be like 70 by 75. So it's a little bit more of an aggressive trade,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like Rio's a little bit higher of a price stock, but the analysis is very similar. Both of them are riding the nine. Both of them are, reversing. They're moving in line with one another. I think you got me though. I am leaning Bell over Rio here.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that does stand out to me, because again, when you're splitting hairs, I mean, that's exactly what you're doing. They call that for a reason.
Yeah.
When you look at the weekly, and if you assume that perhaps the 20 weekly presents a problem for these stocks, which, Mark will tell you it absolutely can, right? It's we don't have to worry about it till that pivot at 15 realistically on Vale, whereas it is a little bit before that pivot on Rio. And so in a world where the 20 ends up slapping these things back down, still going to be able to have a, over a 1-to-1 on
I
a
like it.
Vale versus the Rio would just be a little light in my eyes.